Hey, this is Brant
And Marie.
with Vintage Statements, and today we've had a lot of questions about sandpaper, sanding, and why we sand. So let's get into it today. Alright, let's start with sandpaper. We have two examples here.
Why not paper sand?
We'll talk to somebody about that. We got two different types here. We've got 3M from Home Depot, and we've got some from Harbor Freights. Now, quite a bit of difference in price. I think this was probably $2.99, and you can get those 20% coupons, make it like $2.38 roughly. This is probably 11 bucks. Now, there is quite a bit of difference.
I like this one better.
Yeah, me too. The reason
Why is that?
Well, the reason is that there's three different things that we can talk about. The grit, so 80, which is a very coarse type of sandpaper. So you got 80s and 100s, which is typically what we use, which is coarse. We have 150, which you find as a fine, and then there's very fine, which goes down to the 220s. And you can get sandpaper even lower than that. But today we're going to focus on just
Is it just paper?
Well, it's gritty sandpaper.
Beach paper.
We're going to focus more on 80, 100 grit and the bigger ones. So coarse and maybe even down into the 220s here. So the first thing is the grit, the sandiness of it. Between these two, even though this is 220 and this is 80, there's quite a bit of difference in it, in the quality of the grit that's put on here.
Durability.
Durability grit. Now the other big thing, or the next big thing, is the backing of it. So as you get into higher quality, the better the quality of the paper that's put on. This stuff, once it's folded, it tears easy. It's very thin, right?
It's kind of just like paper.
Yeah, it's not good. Which means when you use this, it's going to wear down really quickly, where this is going to stand up a lot more. This is considered, both of these are considered commercial grade sandpaper. There's actually another level called industrial, which is high use. They're used in production lines and stuff like that.
Like for
We
a
don't
car?
have that. We don't have that, so we're going to focus just on the commercial grade. So the other thing is the bonding agent. So you could have a nice grit, a sand on it. You could have a nice backing, but it's the glue that holds the two together, right? Kind of like me in this
Aww.
relationship.
I'm the glue.
Yeah. So this has got a nice glue to paper to grit ratio. It holds up well. This, I think it's just licked and then sandpaper put on. Yeah.
Bella must have done it.
So we're gonna really focus on this. This is what we use. We get it at Home Depot. You can buy it on Amazon. You can get it a little bit cheaper on Amazon. You can get a little bit more. So I would say each
Amazon
sheet,
Prime.
yeah, each sheet's about 75 cents or so. So let's talk about our sander that we use. This is a DeWalt sander, 2.3. It's not a cubic inch or anything. It's just a motor, just a nice small engine on it. They have horsepower engine. They have smaller motors, things like that. This is about 50 bucks after taxes at Home Depot.
Has a lot of good use in it.
It's got a lot of use in it, which we'll talk about more with this base here, that pad on it. But Home Depot sells them, Lowe's sells them. They're all over the place. You can get the palm
What
sanders.
about Amazon?
You can get them on Amazon too.
Amazon Prime?
You can get it tomorrow if you want. Now, the big thing to know is there's different levels, right? When I first started, I didn't have any money, and I just got a Harbor Freight.
You still don't have money.
I know. I put it in the house, but I never find it afterwards. But this is 50 bucks, so this is a kind of like a higher end for a palm sander. There's orbital sanders where you just change out the discs on them. I really like these. I can use the sheets for other purposes, and I get more use out of it. The Harbor Freight one lasted me about 3 months before it just shot and went dead. These I could use quite a bit longer. I mean, I could use it for quite a while. But the big thing to know is the pads wear out. This one's worn down quite a bit. See that? That means I need a new one. But with DeWalt, you can buy the pad separate. With Harbor Freight, I don't think you could.
DeWalt.
Yeah. But the pad itself's about $30. So I end up just buying new ones each time. You don't have to do that. You can buy the pad, but it's worth it.
So if you wanted to be more green, could you just buy the pad?
I could, but they don't sell them. Like today, I can't get them on Amazon Prime. I can go to the store.
Amazon, get on that.
Now, what's really nice about this DeWalt is the vibration that it sends through your hand. There's not as much.
I hate that part. I don't want to sand anything for that reason.
Now, when you're doing a kitchen table or like a piece like this that I just finished, you're going to be sanding for, I don't know, about 40 minutes or so. Now, with the Harbor Freight one, my hand's going to get worn out pretty quickly, and it's going to be even more of a bear to do. It's going to take me longer, the paper's not going to fit as well, all those factors. But this one, I don't really feel that. I mean, I still feel the sanding, but I can get through it.
I can admit to that. Harbor Freight one, would not
Not
use.
good.
DeWalt, I even will stand with that.
This is something that I would spend money on if you're going to be doing projects like I do, like weekend projects, and you're going to be using it a lot. It's worth the $50. Let's just put it that way. I'll spend it every time. Some key factors with it is the pad. I mean, that's really it. The motor's nice, the handle's nice, but it's the pad that wears down on these things. You're not going to blow out the engine on a DeWalt. But you can see that there's holes on this. It comes with a template where you can puncture the sandpaper and put it in and have it blow. Those holes create a vacuum, so it pulls the dust and pulls it through here. I don't use that.
No, there's dust
Nope.
everywhere in our house.
What I like is the most surface space, so I don't puncture the holes. I don't even use the bag. I'm outside, I'm sanding, the dust is going to get everywhere. I'm going to have to clean up anyways. So.
And it'll still go into the house.
It may go in the house, I don't know.
It does.
One of the big things here is if this pad wears down, you're going to start getting into the metal where the screws are, which holds the pad to the actual unit. And then that's going to cause scratches and issues with yours. So when it gets this low, change out the pad. Just know that you're going to have to be doing that. Alright?
Check.
Alright. So let's talk about what could happen with sanding and these projects and why some people skip it and such. The first thing is sanding's not fun.
No.
A lot of your pieces that you're going to get are secondhand, or at least mine are secondhand. So you're going to have a lot of crud on it, stickers, magic markers, I mean, everything. Polyurethane. Dog slobber. Food. And a lot of polyurethane. Polyurethane is a protectant over the woods, right? So when we sand it off and we heat it up, it's melting. It's going to melt and it's going to gunk up your sandpaper. It makes it so it's unusable. Well, let's go back. Let's talk about a sheet like this will give you 4 pieces for this. I take my pieces from there. So actually, here's one right here. This one's been used, and then what I do is I fold it in half and I use it to hand sand afterwards. Still good.
Half a sheet of paper.
Still good. Still good sandpaper.
1 plus 1 equals half.
So if we're melting the polyurethane and the gunk on it, you're going to waste a lot of your sandpaper out. So try to get that as much off as you can. Wipe it down, clean it up, get rid of the gunk as much as possible. Okay?
Get rid of the gunk.
For a piece like this, I could probably use just 1/4, just or 1/4 of a sheet, one of these, maybe 2 of them, just depending on how junky the piece is to start with and how much I need to sand off. So I always keep these because there's a lot of hand sanding that needs to be done. A lot of edges, right? So you can only use this for straight points. So tops, sides, sometimes the drawers, things like that. And this piece I was actually used because it was such a curve. I could use this, so made this project a lot faster.
This was a good piece.
Yeah. Another thing that can happen, especially with newer people using sanders and stuff like that, or people that are using their worn down pads, is grooves. When you get a nice 80 grit and you're using an edge to try to get something out, remember you're creating a groove in that piece, and when you paint it, it's going to show. So make sure you're keeping this thing flat.
Lesson learned.
Yes. Another thing to do, is which something I've had to learn how to do, is patience. When you're using this...
Let's rewind. Say that again.
Patience is what you need.
Okay.
Let the machine do the work. and the machine has to run a little bit slower. I want to go as fast as I can, but what's going to cause it is you're going to actually use the sandpaper to scrape grooves into it instead of it vibrating just the top layer off. So keep that in mind. You're going to go a lot slower than you would hand sanding with this type of product.
Patience.
Patience. All right. We talked about pads. We talked about the motors. We talked about why we use the DeWalt.
And the paper.
And the paper. So let's talk about some practices that we use for that, okay?
All right. Practice makes perfect.
Which is the first one, right? Practice. Don't start on the top if you're new to your sander or to the sandpaper that you're using. Find a side, maybe the back, and see how it's interacting with the product. So if it's polyurethane, it's going to be more slippery. It's going to move around a lot more. If it's just wood, maybe just stained, it's going to grip and stick, and that's going to lead to an indentation. I like it when it grips and sticks because you can move a lot faster and the product gets sanded down a lot quicker.
Even if you're just practicing, Brant said the back, no one's ever going to see the back. You could even just get some wood and practice.
Yeah, if you get some spare wood, that's even better. Pick your best grit. We use a lot of 80. I've used a lot of 100. I've even used 150 on things. Well, I use it to finish products, so I'll start with an 80 and then I go down. A big thing that a lot of people will do is they'll go from an 80 grit down to a 220. They think that's going to be the best thing. You have to make the steps go down. So if you're going from 80, maybe go to 100 or go to the 150 and spend some time at that 150, then maybe go down to the 220.
You mean 1 + 2 = 3?
Yep. Don't go 1 to 3 and equal 4.
Oh.
Hey! So remember, you got to step down. It's not saving you any time, money, or results. Okay? We touched on this before. Power sanding. Make sure that the sanding is slow and you're taking your time. Did the supervisor want to join us?
She wanted to join.
All right. Another big thing is to remember is no pressure. Don't put pressure down on the sander. Let the sander do the work for you. Okay? If you put pressure down, again, you're going to get into the metal. You're going to wear the pad out a lot quicker. And the reason you got a power tool is for the power tool to work, right? So keep it nice, keep it simple. All right, so that leads us to why do we paint? Why do we sand?
To give him more projects.
Yeah, more time out here. Now, a lot of people are trying to save time because this isn't a huge money-making operation. This is kind of a hobby, love, and you like to see the results of your hard work.
Or maybe it's not a business at all. Maybe you're doing it for your house.
Yeah, it is. So the reason we take the extra step of sanding everything we do, no matter if it's chalk paint pieces or bare prime and paint, whatever it is we want the best durability. We're creating grooves, small little tiny grooves into it. We're removing all of the junk on the pieces, and that helps make the paint stick a lot better. You'll notice the difference when you're sanding a piece that's polyurethane and you haven't sanded it. That paint doesn't stick, it kind of glides with you. And you're ended up having to do more coats, and then at the end, when you put something on it or you wipe it off, you get that, it peels off, it chips, it peels, and then those pieces are always coming to me to get redone. So
I think that's a big point of no matter what kind of paint you use. Like, you don't have to sand with chalk paint, but your chalk paint is going to stick better. So it depends, unless you're looking for something that has like that chip mark, like it makes sense to sand.
Yeah, very good point. And for me, I do this, I sell these pieces, right? So I want my clients to be super happy. I don't want them to get home and then, 2 months later it's all chipped up and it's wearing down. I want repeat business. Maybe later down the line you're buying a kitchen table, maybe you're buying another dresser, maybe a coffee table, or maybe a wine cabinet that I've been making. So I want the product to last a very long time. This isn't just a one and done, I got you on this project, which there's people out there that are doing that. We see it on Craigslist, we see it on OfferUp, we see those things all the time.
And we see happy clients. So
yeah.
Even clients on their second or third baby are coming back.
Exactly. And you may see that in
Bella.
price too. You may see like one piece being $150. It's cheaper than my stuff, but it may not last long, and some of those pieces are actually coming to me to be redone. So maybe spend a little bit more time, or when you're picking up a piece, ask them, was this piece sanded down? That's why I do a lot of these videos, is so you can show that sanding process. Half the video is me sanding, and that's half this project is the sanding.
It's the unfun part, but it really does make a huge difference.
Exactly. It helps with the paint, it sticks better, and I think it just makes the piece look a lot better at the end. We even go back and scuff up pieces after that, and this sandpaper that we used to start with comes in handy again. Now there is some downsides to sanding, right? I have to do all the work. I have to sand.
Bella does supervise very well.
Yeah, you have a lot more supervisors, a lot of people watching your stuff, but it is time consuming. Like I just mentioned, it takes a lot of your day just in sanding, and then you have to vacuum, and then you have to clean up, and then you're ready to paint. A lot of people just skip that step, saves you a lot of time. As an example, this piece right here, this dresser, took me about 4 hours from the time that I started it to the time I ended it. If I didn't sand, I could probably eliminate an hour, hour and a half of that. Saves me a lot of time.
Maybe even 2 hours.
Time is money. Yeah, on some projects for sure.
There was a lot of drawers, and there was 3 units. There's 3, like a dresser, a tall boy, and a nightstand. So you did sand for a while.
Yeah, I sanded for quite a while on this piece.
I went to yoga.
Yeah. Remember, you can create grooves if you don't watch and keep level. If you're sanding an edge with a power tool, well, you could flatten it out, and that's really going to show at the end. You can't really just wipe that off and it come back. So you got to keep the flat areas, and then, which leads to more hand sanding. A lot of this stuff that I do, I have to go back and hand sand a lot of it for all the grooves and all the edges. Look at some of my videos, you'll see some of the decor on it. All that has to be hand sanded, and this paper comes in handy instead of just tossing it away. What else? It's dirty. Like you said, it comes in the house, it's all over the ground, you still have to clean up. No one wants to do it. I don't want to do it, but I know the product will look a lot better at the end. Another big point is no one ever sees it, right? You see this final piece, you don't know that I put, 40 minutes to 2 hours into just sanding. It's one of those things where no one knows all the back end work, right? It's like an iceberg, you only see the top, 10% and everything else underneath of it. There's some skill involved, right? You gotta make sure that you keep it level, you have some patience, you're not flattening out areas, things like that. So I think that's pretty much it. What we focus on is, that's the reason we sand, is just, it helps out the product. We pay a little bit more for a sander and some sandpaper, but they last quite a bit of time if you use them properly, and you're patient, right? You don't heat up the polyurethane and melt it into the sandpaper, and the end product is what you want, right?
I think that gives a Bella approval.
Yeah, Bella approval for sure. So that's what we focus on for sanding, sandpaper, and why we do it. Hopefully with your project, that gives you some more understanding of why we do it, and maybe will help you with your project.
Yeah.
So follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, leave us a comment. Did this help you understand a little bit more about sanding, sandpaper, and why we do it? And if you have some additional questions, well, we can always do another tutorial on actually sanding, and maybe maybe I'll talk and maybe she'll sand. Alright guys, have a good day.
Thanks.